Hi, this is Michael Emerson. Once again, I've had a great conversation with Kara. I hope to do it again soon. It's always stimulating and I think worth your attention. Quite possibly. Join us. So this, there's a jacket that matches this suit, back at the apartment. I thought it was a little warm for that.
Right.
But it was made by the costume designer for Lost, who made it for a scene that never got shot. And then when the series wrapped and everybody went home, he said, take that thing with you.
It's
and
amazing.
I thought, hooray, it's a beautiful suit.
Because it's like is it a linen? Am I making this up?
It's linen.
It's linen. And it's this
linen.
nice.
And it's a period look. And
so what's the scene that it was supposed to be in? Or it was in?
It was a fantasy sequence of some sort where we went to another possible life that Benjamin Linus could have had. But they ran out of parallel spaces on the show. They just we shot so many flash sidewayses that it was just something that they didn't really need to tell the story.
Do you remember what the flash was about? What happened to Ben?
I think he was wealthy and happy living on an island. I can't remember if it was the island or not, but it would have been cool. Everything was cool on Lost. All the scenes we shot were crazy cool in conception and execution.
I still love that show. I still think of it as one of my favorites. I haven't seen it since it first ran or first aired, but I still think of it as one of the greatest shows ever made. Loved it.
There's a whole new audience for it now.
Yeah.
I have teenagers coming up to me now going, Mr. Emerson, I just binge watched Lost. My parents used to watch it, but now they finally got me to watch it. And I loved it so much, I think I'll watch it again.
I love that again.
I'm embarrassed because they know the show better than I do. At this point, I mean, they know the episode numbers. They know the episode titles. They remember scenes.
I remember last time you said that they know more than you know about anything that you ever knew.
Well, yeah, that condition is worse now than it used to be.
Well, I'll tell you what. I was just telling Candace, actually, my assistant, that I was watching Evil the other night, and when it was the first episode of the new season, and my son was walking past but not able to see the TV, and he heard you talking. He said, I know exactly who that is, because also your voice is unmistakable. So he remembers you from Lost, of course.
Oh, okay.
And hearing you playing Leland, he was like, that's Michael Emerson.
Oh, I'm glad I have a voice that sticks in people's ears.
Did you not know that?
I don't really know. It's just it's the sound I hear every day. But I it is a theater voice. I'm proud of that, and I trained for the stage, and you either get a good voice or you're not going to succeed.
You have an impeccable voice and very original and distinct, or distinctive. I don't know what's the word, distinct or distinctive. Either one. Distinctive.
Oh.
You have a very distinctive voice and very identifiable in a very good way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So, speaking of Lost, I feel like I'm going to ask you this now instead of later. Last time we talked, I had gone to Facebook fan groups of Lost to ask if they had questions that they really just needed answered. And you answered a lot of them then.
Oh, that's right.
I did the same thing this time. And can we do a few fan questions before we
About
get into
Lost?
our regular? Yeah, our regular.
Wow.
Is that okay?
Okay.
It's not just Lost. I do have other fan questions.
Oh, okay.
But a few other things. But let's do that first. I would usually save this to last, but I feel like it's falling right into the right spot. So, ready?
Here we go.
All right. So Henry Gale is big for so many people. Like, most of the questions where we need to know more about Henry Gale from your perspective, in your opinion. So what was the original plan for him, and what do you think his backstory is? So that's from Pippa and Richard on Facebook.
I mean, Henry Gale, I think, was an experiment on the part of the writers and creators of the show. And I'm not sure they knew where it was going. I think they meant him to be a seemingly innocent, inept balloonist from Minnesota. But of course he was more than that. They wanted him to be in disguise and really be, you know, the worst of the bad people on the island. It took them a while to get around to that, and they kept their cards close to their vest. We just shot all that Henry Gale stuff, and I got wounded, and, you know, I said a lot of mysterious or sinister things, but they had never told me. I think the idea was originally I was hired to do 3 episodes and then go home, and then it became 6, and then it became the whole remainder of the season.
Yeah.
But they didn't say what was happening. I probably told you this story before, that I went to the director and I said, this would be a hoot if it turned out that I was actually the leader of the others. And he blinked at me twice and said, I can't discuss that with you.
I love that. He must have been so freaked out that you figured it out.
Well, it wasn't a great leap. And between that and them not letting me go home, I thought, oh, something's up here. Mm-hmm. So in a way, it was an elaborate audition to play.
Right. Oh, quite an elaborate audition.
The
well,
leader
you
of the
certainly
others.
knocked their socks off.
Worked out.
Got the gig. All right, so who is Henry Gale to you? Asks Hunter DeBlanc. Who is Henry Gale?
Henry Gale is a wicked person's imagination of what an innocent world traveler might be. You know, he's from the upper Midwest. Nobody could be a bad person and be from Minnesota, right?
Midwesterners are pretty darn nice, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
I
think so. I'm from
Iowa.
Iowa. But when I meet people from Minnesota, Michigan,
Ohio, I find so many great people from Ohio.
yeah.
Like when someone tells me they're from Ohio and I already like them, I'm like, of course you're from Ohio.
Yeah.
But that can't be. Everybody in Ohio can't possibly be nice.
No, certainly it's not true.
So what is that about?
I don't know.
I find it interesting, though. But yes, okay. All right, so that's Henry Gale to you. All right. Were you able to influence the role of Ben, or like who Ben was, or anything that he did?
Not directly and not intentionally. I think just the way I played it and the choices I made became a conversation with the writing team. And so we traded thoughts in that way.
Okay. Are you down for a lost revival with Ben and Hurley on the island? This is from Tyler Todd.
There was some talk or some thought about them having a life together as commanders of the island after the series. That never worked out, except we had a little taste of it at the very end. There was a little kind of teaser or epilogue that they made, 4 or 5 minutes long, that we shot on the next to the last day, and
okay,
in which Hurley and Ben apparently had been working together for many, many years, hundreds of years for all I know.
So did that air?
It aired.
It did.
It aired. I don't know if it aired on the last night of regular broadcast, but it was available on the DVDs.
Oh, like as a little bonus or something.
And it suggested a whole other next chapter.
Got it.
Where they were good people, and they ran the island humanely and sweetly.
Oh,
and,
that's nice.
You know, that the island became a reflection of Hurley's temperament.
I love Hurley. Hurley was such a great character.
And Hurley was the great poobah, and Ben Linus was just his assistant, trying to, in a way, work off or expiate the sins of his earlier life.
That could be good. I see that. All right. Where did Ben go, or who did he move on with? Asks Peter Knight.
Unknown. You mean where did he go to in the afterlife?
Yeah, I think that's what he probably means.
I mean, there's a couple of candidates for who he might, because in my vision of the end of the series, everybody marches off into the afterlife in pairs, like in the fifth act of a Shakespearean comedy, you know. People mate up, and go on and live happily ever after. But Ben hadn't that on the series. That's why he never went into the chapel at the end. He had to wait outside. He hadn't cleared himself yet. He hadn't found his mirror redeemer or his true love. So he would need that
to get there.
And who knows who it might be? It might have been Rousseau or somebody like that, or somebody he meets much later in his magic existence.
I like Rousseau for Benjamin.
Because in one of the Splash Sidewayses, he was sweet on her.
Uh-huh.
It was
yeah,
nice.
That would make sense. Okay, that's good. Is it easier to play villainous or friendly? Asks Pierre Olivier Hamel.
For me, it's easier to play a villain, I think. Yeah. It seems natural to me, and I gravitate to it because it involves more layers of playing. You know, the lies, the subterfuge, the strategies, the make-believe, the play acting, all of that. I kind of gravitate to that. I like it. I always feel a little insufficient in a tender-hearted role because I feel like I'm not doing enough. Like there must be more to be done with it. It is my theatrical urge to complicate it somehow, to make them more odd or more grotesque than they need to be, or more humorous.
That's interesting because sometimes don't actors like to see the good in somebody if they're playing somebody bad, let's say? Then they try to, then I've heard this before where they've said, I can still see the good in him. He's trying, he's a good person, whatever it is. It would be the opposite almost for you. Like if you're playing, why am I blanking on his name on Person of Interest? What was your name in there?
Mr. Finch.
Mr. Finch, Harold Finch.
He was a good guy.
He was a good guy. So it's like you would have to find something evil hidden, like lurking beneath the surface.
He was a good guy, but he was eccentric.
Yeah.
And he was possessed in a way. He was on a great suicide mission. And he was damaged physically and mentally by bad things that had happened.
So that gave him a little extra layering.
Then that's something I could hang my hat on. I could hold on to that and play it.
Right. Well, it wouldn't be much fun playing somebody really one-dimensional.
No, and I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I would be that actor that the director would have to sit on top of and say, stop making it so interesting. You know?
Yeah.
Can you just listen and respond?
I remember last time you told me that you really wanted to do comedy. Like you really thought of yourself as a comedy actor.
Yeah.
And here you ended up in these dramatic roles.
I know.
But with a comic sort of angle.
Most of my characters have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And they definitely have a way with words. Or I find a way that they will have a way with words.
Okay, if you could be on a comedy like today, do you watch TV? Anything right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you watching first of all?
Oh no.
It's hard to answer this, right? Because you
know
what they are, but then suddenly you forget when I ask the question.
Right. I'm trying to think what I'm watching that's funny. I watched that Bridget Everett comedy.
Oh yeah, that's sweet.
What is it? Someone Somewhere?
Yeah, it's a hard title. People don't remember it. I think it's Somebody Somewhere.
Yeah, it's easy to get the wrong words, but I like that that's a single camera comedy and that it's character driven and not so much the rat-a-tat-tat humor of a 4-camera sitcom.
Yeah, I would love to see you enter their town in Kansas.
It would be fun.
You would. I could see
something like that. Something like that would be so much fun.
Okay, so that's what else are you watching right now? Dramas are fine.
What have we been watching? Oh, I'm terrible.
It's hard to remember these. I know. I always forget myself, and I'm always watching TV. I watch everything. What do you turn on most? Is it Netflix, HBO Max? What do you usually press?
I press PBS and I press HBO Max, yes. And what's the one with the smile on it?
The smile on it.
Amazon.
Prime. Prime Video. I think they're trying.
And of course, Paramount Plus.
Of course, Paramount Plus. I just had Paramount Plus on the other night watching Evil, 3rd season, which is great. That's a great segue.
It's a pretty good show.
So it's a pretty good show, and I feel like it's good that it moved to Paramount Plus, right? Or do you not think
I think so. No, I think it's good. It had a whole bunch of bonuses built into that change. One was it loosened things up again in terms of standards and practices. You know, we can be more profane. The show can be sexier. The show can be bloodier. And
it's very sexy and very bloody now.
Right.
Very.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
It's a very rich, feeling show, I feel like.
Yeah.
So that's a plus.
They can do whatever they want now, kind of.
What about so do you feel like it's the same viewers watching on Paramount Plus that watched on CBS, or different?
I think it's some of the originals, but new viewers too, younger, and that new viewers that want a jazzier show than they might have felt it to be on CBS.
Mm-hmm. Right, because I think CBS does skew older.
It's a conservative. It's the oldest of the legacy networks. So naturally, they're trying to maintain and serve an older audience that has come to trust them.
And how in touch with the Kings are you, Robert and Michelle?
I don't really see them much.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Robert usually directs 1 or 2 episodes every season, so I see him then. And Michelle kind of drifts in and out sometimes. I'm always delighted to see her. She's a mysterious and very funny, brilliant woman.
Oh, really?
I like when she's around. I like them both.
Yeah.
They're quite a team, those two.
Yeah. I remember I interviewed them when they were doing The Good Wife, which, of course, your wife, Carrie, was on. And I guess The Good Fight is theirs too, obviously. And she's on that too.
And she's directing.
She's directing that?
Currently, she's directing an episode of
like
The
right
Good
now
Fight.
This week?
Yeah.
Cool.
She's on I think she's on a scout today, a location scout.
Oh, amazing. So is this new for her, is directing?
She directed an episode last season for them. And before that, she had been directing on Claws, the series that she was on.
Oh, that's cool.
And she'd been doing independent movies and stuff for years. And she's really been a director all of this current century.
That's great. And she likes it?
Yeah, she does.
And how about you? Do you ever think about directing?
No, I sort of used up my directing battery back in my theater days.
Yeah.
And I just never felt like it would be presumptuous of me to step in and make out like I knew all about cameras and sound recording and, without having made a study of it. Carrie made a study of it. It's perfectly natural that, she's into that. She's ready to go, and she's a good director and a super well-prepared director. But she's part of that movement in the industry that, is about women taking the reins and wearing all the hats.
And I remember you saying the first time we talked, which was when I was doing that piece for the New York Times, you called her a multi-hyphenate.
Yeah.
So, and I've heard that term many times since. That was the first time I'd ever heard it. But that's part of the whole thing, too, is like both of that. Be a multi-hyphenate, and you make the work. You create the content. You do the thing. And I love that. Good for her. Does she feel empowered and good? Is it working out?
She's part of a circle of showbiz women who support one another and bounce ideas off one another and collaborate. And, they're just...
I love that.
They're getting serious about it.
I love that. I love to see it. And it's like the synergy is what everybody needs.
It's great.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, all right. So the Kings, we were talking about the Kings. Let me get back to my questionnaire here, which, I normally don't go with questionnaires, but in this case. All right. Have you ever had a lost dream? Marsha Middleton wants to know. A dream involving lost.
I don't think I have.
Okay.
It would be unusual. I'm trying to remember if I've ever had a dream that was set in any show I've ever done. No, I have actor nightmares, but they're theatrical.
Okay, last time you told me about one, you said that you would have a regular nightmare. Oh wait, was it it was King Lear. Was it King? Is it still King Lear?
I have had King Lear dreams.
Okay.
And Hamlet dreams, and just plays. I've been waiting backstage to make an entrance in a play. I didn't even know what the play was. All I knew was that I had no idea what the lines were and what I was going to do, and it was getting close to my entrance cue. It's terrifying.
You know what that is? That's an unpreparedness. It has to be
Yes.
an unpreparedness.
Right, but I'm a really prepared actor, so why is...
I'm gonna take a little leap. Ready? I think it's because it was something else in your life that you felt unprepared for. That it was just manifesting in your dream as an acting situation.
Maybe it's purgative, you know? It's... Because I am a bit of a perfectionist, you know, with lines, with performances.
Okay.
With any artwork I ever did, and even the way I decorate the space I live in and stuff like that, you know, it has to be just so. But I feel like being out of control or chaos is always just around the corner if I'm not vigilant.
That's so interesting. So I'm trying to figure that out. You remember I was a therapist, right? I told you this last time.
Oh yeah, you said.
So, you know, this is where I go. I like to analyze things.
Yeah.
So, all right, so you're a perfectionist in all areas of your life. But you feel like it's always right around the corner. Chaos.
Yes, I think I want to have control over things. I want not to have terrible surprises or failures.
Because
I don't know. I don't really have them. So in a way, I'm making up a thing that I haven't. You know, I have had, I suppose, some embarrassments in my life, and certainly in my life as an actor, I have been unprepared. But it's been a long time since I was ever unprepared for anything to do with acting. But you know, there was a mad scramble like it is for everyone when you start out. When I was starting out, I couldn't even figure out how to become an actor in New York City. I became a magazine illustrator instead. And that was a tough racket too. It was hard when I started out, and I had pictures rejected, and I had pictures printed, and I didn't get paid for them. And you know, you're finding your way. You're always finding your way. I guess I've never let go of finding my way. I always feel like, Carrie and I talk about this a lot. You know, we are still, in our heads, we are those poor actors that were auditioning all the time and couldn't get the parts. Of course, those days they're past.
far gone.
Long past.
Right.
But that's, you always feel like, oh, this success is ephemeral. That, you know, rejection is just around the corner.
Yeah. Because it is, though, isn't it?
Well, it is. It truly is. And certainly, you can take a project, meaning well, and bring all your skill to bear on it, and it could flop.
Yeah. Yeah. And rejection in this business, it's filled with rejection, even when you're a successful actor like you or multi-hyphenate like Carrie.
So true.
So, I mean, that would make sense that you always feel like it's around the corner.
Yeah.
Because it, like, literally is. Well,
It
not
is.
literally, but it metaphorically is.
And it could be just the next director. Even a series you're a regular on. It could be the next director who just isn't on your wavelength. Or they seem to be struggling to communicate to you how you could do this better, but you can't hear it. And they're going to do 1,000 takes to try to show you the way.
That has to be really...
You
How
know,
do you deal with that?
I try to be patient. I feel like, particularly if I'm a regular on a show,
Uh-huh.
I am a host to any guest artists that are involved. So it's like a dinner party at my house, and I will try to make them happy.
Oh, okay.
And if I can't, I'll take them aside and hopefully have a reasonable conversation about it. Once or twice I've gotten a little snippy over the years.
I can't even picture it. Well, I guess I can. I should be able to picture
Sure.
it because you play that. You would do that in one of your roles. Get a little snippy.
I just get really icy and precise in my language.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And you have dinner parties and whatnot, don't you? I feel like you told me about this before. Do you guys have a lot of dinner parties? Is this a normal thing that you do, or maybe pre-pandemic?
We have like a family meal almost every week, extended family.
Okay.
You know, and then we're always we haven't hosted much since COVID came,
Mm-hmm.
but we're always meeting people out. And
Yeah. Yeah. I would feel like you have a great circle of friends.
we have old friendships
Mm-hmm.
that just have the right feeling. You know, you do a million shows in your acting career, and you make friends on almost all of them. I have, but then you just drift away
Mm-hmm.
from people. It's just natural. If you hang on to somebody for decades, then that's a special friendship that you brought just, I don't know, more attention or better
Yeah.
energy than you might have some others.
Right. So let's say you do a show, you're close with people, you make friends with people, the show is over. Are you one to reach out and continue a friendship and say, hey, let's get together or whatever? Is that something you do?
Yeah. Or stay in touch, you know, keep texting or emailing or, you know, talking on the phone. But after a while, you know, lives change.
Yeah.
People get married. People move to the West Coast, or, you know, it just becomes a little less frequent. It becomes Christmas cards,
Yeah.
you know, which is,
That's all right. It's life,
That's all
I
right.
guess. But I like it. Like, to me personally, when I make a friend or I like the person, I really do want to keep up with it. I know that
Yeah.
life gets in the way a lot. It's hard, but I love it when it can happen.
yeah.
You know? So you're not in LA anymore at all? Because you were kind of bi-coastal, right, before?
Yeah. At one time we were.
And what happened? You sold, so you're done? You sold the house?
Yeah, we were, because we had no work in LA. There was no reason to be there, and to have property there, and you know, trying to decide, should we have people staying there, or should it be an Airbnb kind of thing? And it just seemed like there were always problems with leaks and the roof and break-ins and stuff like that. And at some point, we just had enough of that long distance landlording, and thought, let's part with this.
Got it.
It was a lovely place, and we'll think fondly of it forever. We drive by it every time
you do?
we have reason to be in LA.
Yeah. I do that with old houses too.
But it worked out all right. You know, that money became the money to get a place upstate here, a place that the whole family really gets a lot of use out of. So it was, you know, it was better. It was
Okay. So
better
when
for
you-
family.
When you say the whole family, who are you talking about?
Carrie has 2 siblings that live in New York, a sister, her husband, 2 teenage boys, and Carrie's brother, an actor also, who lives in the guest house of the place upstate. So we were 7 at table during COVID. And now Carrie's mother is here, and, you know.
That's perfect for that.
Yeah, and friends and relatives from all parts of the country seem to just keep passing through, and now they can pass through upstate and see the Hudson Valley.
Yeah, it's pretty up there.
Yeah, it's really nice.
So I'm just picturing, though, that if you put your LA house up, if you kept it and made it an Airbnb, I'm just thinking people would be like, yeah, I'm going to go rent out Benjamin Linus's place. Or
There's that too.
that would be like, people would love that.
I suppose.
But then it would also be kind of,
it's not very private, is it?
no.
And then you get people posting pictures of your furnishings
Right.
or your design choices online, and
Yeah, that's not
can
good.
you believe they put this on the terrace? Or, you know, stuff like that.
Talk about being judged. Talk about needing everything to look perfect.
Right.
And then they'd come in and who knows what they do to the place.
Right.
They would not keep it.
We
Perfect.
weren't having good luck with it.
Uh-huh.
And like everything we've ever owned, water is our ongoing enemy. leaking, condensation, flooding, all that kind of stuff. We just seem to always be doing battle with water.
Water. Well, it's
you gotta have it.
the major thing, right?
Yeah, you gotta have it.
You gotta have it. That's so funny. Okay, let me get back to these questions, and then I have another thing I want to do with you, which is because I'll tell you after. Never mind the intro to that. Okay. Did anyone ever get hurt on set? This is like the last lost question. That's Marsha Middleton.
Just about everybody.
Everybody got hurt on set.
I think I got hurt a lot because I had so many fight scenes. And then in the last month of shooting, April of 2010, I completely shot my knee out. One cold day we were shooting on the misty rocks where the waves crashed. And I was sitting Buddhist style with my legs crossed, and they said cameras up, and so I went to leap up and something went pop in my knee, and it was a wreck. It shot the meniscus.
Do you still feel it?
Yeah, I have to be careful with it. I have to be careful with it.
That's the worst.
But so I had to finish shooting. I had 2.5, 3 weeks of shooting left, and to do that, and some of those scenes were in, streams that were running and had slippery rocks and stuff like that, and I dare not fall again.
Yeah,
so that would have been it.
Yeah. Okay, so you made it out at least.
But yeah, people got ill, because sometimes there would be scenes where people were cut down from a parachute hanging in a tree and they would fall into water, natural groundwater in Hawaii, and that's got a really bad virus in it.
Oh God, really?
Leptospirosis, something like that, and it will make you ill.
So those were stunt people, I guess, doing those.
No, but sometimes actors.
That's dangerous.
Yeah, I wouldn't. After some point, I wasn't going to do anything in the water, in streams or ponds or pools or. The ocean was all right. But.
Yeah. But that has its own hazard. It's different, but
every show I've ever worked on, people got hurt.
They have?
Yeah. Person of interest. Imagine all that running and gunning that Jim would do, and even though I wasn't, because my character was crippled.
Yeah, right.
But still, he would get pounded on. He would get thrown across the room, or something would blow up, and so there was. And I've been hurt on Evil.
What happened?
Fight sequences. You work it all out so it's safe. But even a safe thing, if you do it 20 times and you're doing a little schmacting while you're doing it, then somebody's gonna bump into the door frame or.
That's weird. I would have thought they would protect you from it.
They do a good job of
it.
it.
Do anything.
And the really heavy combat, that's done by stunt people. But at some point, there has to be some takes of you and your scene partner going,
right.
And
things happen.
You're trying to make it look real, and sometimes you make it too real for yourself. And
yeah, I don't know if you know who Molly Shannon is.
Yeah.
So I was reading her memoir recently. Great memoir, by the way. Highly recommend it. Really interesting. But she was talking about how when she was on Saturday Night Live, she really just got into it. And she had some character that was like all over the stage. She would be throwing herself into metal chairs. And it was like just what she did. And she made it without a major injury. And she feels lucky, and she would never do it today, she said. But like you get into it, and that's to her, that was just being the character.
I will venture to say that she was under 40.
Yes.
When she was
sure was.
When she was throwing herself around the stage.
I think she's probably 30.
At some point, you will pay the price for throwing yourself wildly around the stage or around the set.
Yeah. And that's a different time.
It will get you.
Different age, different era, right? For her. Are you still in touch with Jim Caviezel? Allison Singleton would like to know.
No, I haven't heard from him in a long time.
What's a long time? Like since the show?
We trade sometimes jokes or funny pictures, holiday greetings and stuff like that.
Okay. Terry O'Quinn, I know you said you're still in touch with, or you were then. You still are?
Had lunch with him last week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
He was living in Virginia, I think you told me last time.
Virginia Beach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you had lunch with him here in New York?
Yeah, it was great.
All right.
Yeah.
You had also told me about a show that the two of you wanted to do.
Oh yeah, way back when Lost wrapped.
Yeah. I told you to shop it around again because maybe it's a different era
right.
and people are ready for that.
People ask about it. When we posted pictures of us having lunch together, we got a whole bunch of. I got more responses to that picture by tenfold than anything I have ever posted on Twitter.
Huh.
So there, people like us. They like us together, and many people mentioned that long ago dream of a show called Odd Jobs.
Odd Jobs.
Where we were supposed to play two aging and inept kind of con artists who weren't successful.
I would love to see that too right now.
But the problem, and the reason it never got made, is because we pitched it great, I thought, and people got excited about it because we were funny in the room. But then no one could ever write the script that was inept enough. Everybody kind of wanted to drift over and make us hard-ass, gun-toting, kick-ass guys that...
The standard guy.
Yeah. And they wanted to make them too heroic. And our whole idea was to show, because we had both gotten injured enough on Lost, we thought, come on, here's the story. There's nothing heroic here. We are two old actors who hurt when we get up. Sometimes we can't even get up. So let's make that show. And have them really, once they get knocked down, they have to stay down.
Yeah. I'm feeling like today's the day for that show.
Well, we're closing in. We're closing in on it being the physical truth about both of us.
It could be a reality show instead.
It's true.
Michael and Terry, 2022, the reality show.
Wow.
That would be good. Okay, who is your favorite scene partner? Samantha Shelton wants to ask, who is your favorite scene partner in any show?
Oh, on any show?
Yeah, like any show who really elevated things for you or made you really look forward to your shooting scenes with them.
Oh. I have...
Many?
I have worked with Terry.
Okay.
He has to be my great scene partner from Lost.
Okay.
And Amy Acker has to be my great scene partner from Person of Interest.
Okay.
And I'm working with terrific people right now on Evil.
Yeah. All of them.
Andrea Martin, come on, we have some great scenes together.
She's great. Oh my God, she was in... I hope I'm getting this right. Was she in the show Good News? Is this wrong?
I don't know.
Who does she play in Evil?
Sister Andrea.
Yes, she was. That's her. I recognize her. I'm like, she looks so different because it was this comedy. It was made by Tina Fey a couple of years. It was maybe like 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And she was like the main character. Hilarious. I mean, another level. I watch him with my son Charlie, and we would just crack up continuously at her.
She's hilarious,
oh, okay.
But she can also be kind of spine-chilling.
Okay, interesting. All right, good. All right, so now let's get off camera for a second for other questions. If you could time travel, would you? And if so, where would you go? Or when would you go to? Marielle Evans asked.
I would like to be, just for a few minutes, a customer in a London tavern in 1599 where Shakespeare is at another table working on a manuscript.
Okay.
Just to see the man
at work.
Now I have another. I have a more serious answer to your question, which is I would like to spend an hour with my mother when she was 10 years old.
Okay, all right. Let's dive into that. That's very interesting. Why 10?
Anytime when she was innocent, anytime when she was carefree and just a girl, just a chatty, funny little girl, which I expect she was.
Okay, so because you'd like to know what?
It would just be so sweet to see her, to step outside of the son relationship with her and have her be just another, just the wonderful woman to me and a the best mom.
Okay.
But to see her as something else.
Can you picture, like, what do you think she would be like?
I think she would look a little bit like some relatives I have, like maybe my little brother when he was that age, or some cousins, or some of my brother's children. Sometimes in certain photos they look like my mom, and they're sweet and funny and shy, but bright and talkative. It would just be such a nice thing.
So how would you describe your relationship with your mother?
With my mom?
Yeah.
It was really good. My mom was my number one supporter.
Yeah.
My mom had an unshakable belief in me, and the love she gave me was unconditional. Always was. I was so blessed. I see it now as a grown-up out in the world. I see how many people did not have that as the base.
Yeah, I think that's common. It's more common to have the opposite.
Yeah, from which they, because for me, then why would I not have confidence then and go out in the world and do things?
And your father?
He was just a quiet Midwestern man, kind of a blue collar Midwestern man, a farmer's son, and not a quiet, easygoing person who didn't have big ambitions. He was not a reader or anything like. He and I had very little in common except our blood kinship.
Did he support you? Like, was he accepting of you?
Yeah,
Generally?
I think he was mystified by me.
Okay.
I think he was not a terribly verbal person. So I think he was mystified to have a chattery little boy in his life all those years, who then went off to be a chattery, artsy grown-up. And then when he began to see me on his own television set, I don't think he quite knew what to make of it. You know, it would be like...
What did he say?
He would just say... His nickname for me was Charlie. I don't know where
I remember.
he got that.
You said
he
that.
Would say, Charlie, it's really something. I don't know. He would say the thing that people from his part of the world say, which is, I don't know how you learned all those lines. Well, Dad, you just do. It's part of the deal. If you can't do that, then you can't have the part. You can't be on TV.
Right. I can picture you, because you are also so articulate and you have such a great vocabulary. You were probably like that from the get-go, right? When you were a little kid.
Yeah, I think I was.
Do you remember people telling you that?
I remember people telling me that I had a funny voice. I remember my Aunt Sue putting her hand over my mouth when we were singing hymns in church. Because my pitch was not that good. It's much better now.
Oh, boy.
But I guess I was talkative. I would talk to strangers. And I know where I got that. I got that from my mother. Because my mom's one of those Midwestern ladies. When she comes to New York City, there are no strangers. She stops and engages in conversation with whoever it is, the doorman at the hotel, or a homeless person, or shopkeepers, people standing on line at
I love that.
the ice cream vendor. You know, she...
Yeah. Personally, I love that.
It's sweet, but it can also get into situations.
Like what?
You know, people then... Sometimes people have an agenda or want to sell her something or tie her up for a while or show her a great opportunity that they know about or tickets to this or that. But no, it's fine.
But so you got that from her. That's what you took from her.
Yeah.
Yeah, or not took.
But partly I'm projecting on her too. I realized how callow I was when I came to New York City from Iowa. And it took me a long time, I think, and this is not necessarily a plus, but to get a little more of a New York shell on me and to not walk around open-mouthed with wonder or looking up at the tall buildings or all those things you do when you're from Des Moines and not from here.
Mm-hmm.
And it can make you a target.
Yes. I still like to look at the buildings.
I do too.
I know you can't, but
now
I'm still drawn to.
But now I know how to deal with whatever New York throws at me, or I feel like I do.
Right, you have
For the
street
most
smarts.
part.
Yeah. So it's the best of both, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and your father called you Charlie, and he called your mother
Clyde. God, we had this conversation.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes, and because I remembered Charlie because my son's name is Charlie, and then we talked about the fact that Charlie is a good guy. Like all the Charlies are good.
That's right. Yeah.
Because they are. But I remember you saying that you weren't sure why, or why you didn't tell me the other things about your parents. But I do remember you saying that, which is interesting.
I don't know why you didn't name me Charlie. Well, I don't think he felt he had a vote. I think in that, in 1954.
Yeah.
The husband of a good Catholic girl kind of left the naming
to
the mother of the child.
So I have this weird thought that I feel like, we all name kids before they're born. Not all, because there are certain cultures that don't. And I feel like that's the way to do it, is wait until you see the personality. Like, I bet he started calling you Charlie after you were existing.
Probably. Based on...
There was something Charlie-ish about you.
Whatever he observed about me as a person.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that would be good.
That's
to
a
just
pleasant thought.
I don't know what you call people before, or, if you don't do that, what do you call your baby? But I don't know.
And Charlie is a dearer, friendlier kind of name than Mike.
Right.
Because there was no Michael in Iowa.
Oh, there wasn't?
No.
So everybody calls you Mike growing up?
Yeah.
Oh. Do people call you Mike now?
If I go back, anyone.
Only there.
Only there, and I have one kind of friend for life who just insists on it.
I cannot see you as Mike.
Right? I don't
At
really, I hardly respond to it, but.
When you said Mike, I had to think what you were talking about for a second.
Yeah.
I was like, what is he saying, Mike? Because I didn't picture that. To me, you are Michael, but you are a Michael, I think. Michael is appropriate for you.
So. I think it's all right.
Yeah.
But when you grow up in a little farm town in Iowa, you don't keep the name on your birth certificate. There has to be a shortened form of that.
Yeah. Well, my son's name is actually Charlie on his birth certificate. It is not Charles.
Oh, great.
He is Charlie. That's it.
Oh,
so
that's
we have
great.
to explain that sometimes. I remember, sometimes people will call him Charles.
Yeah.
And he has to correct them. It's like the opposite of what you would think. It's the opposite of I'm Michael, not Mike.
That's good.
I'm Charlie, not Charles. All right, I have some things I want to run by you because I feel like sometimes I did this with one other person once, and I feel like it's super interesting because of your way of seeing things. I feel like you're a very thoughtful person. I'm going to give you some sayings, and let's talk about if we buy these sayings or not. I shouldn't have even prefaced it at all because it's not as complicated as it sounds. All right, all you need is love. Yes, no, maybe. What do you think about that expression or that saying? All you need is love.
It's not my favorite Beatles song.
Okay.
And I think it's too general to have bite, if you ask me.
Okay. Should we go more specific? Familiarity breeds contempt.
Is it Shakespearean? I can't remember. It's apt, but it's only half of a dynamic. If there's no spice or newness in a thing, let's say a work of art, or let's say a performer, then you risk disenchantment. But I think in relationships and stuff, familiarity is what you crave.
Mm-hmm.
Familiarity breeds your bond with your loved ones, spouse, lover.
I think also, I'm just going to put my own take on it. I feel like it depends on the person too, where some people really appreciate novelty in life and others appreciate routine and predictability. So maybe in some ways it might apply more to based on what your perspective and your personality is.
Yeah.
Are you a novelty person or are you a stability person?
I subscribe to that quote from, what author is it? A French author. Is it Balzac? Someone who said something on the order of, be quiet and orderly in your life that you may be wild and adventurous or in your work.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I have it in the box. I keep my watches and cufflinks in. I can't shoot. How can I not know the exact quote? And
you've seen it a million times.
But anyway, I subscribe to it. I think I like, we live a quiet, orderly life at home. It's a comfort, and I think it is, just like my mother's love, it is a thing that gives you the confidence and the courage to go out into the world and do something daring, like a play in front of a live audience.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, for somebody who is a perfectionist and likes things controlled or controllable, you really chose a career that is not.
As if to push the envelope of my very own sense of control. To do the high wire act, to see if I can.
Although,
and you can if you're a super careful preparer.
But interestingly, you've had these really meaty jobs, roles, where you are on these, at least the most predictable type of show that you could get, right? So it's like, you're not going from project to project. I mean, you are to some degree, but less so than you would if you were, you're getting these, what is it? Stable. They're stable. They season after season on network television. Do you still call it network television if it's Paramount Plus? Yeah, I would call it network.
It's a CBS production.
Yeah. I'm going to say yes to that.
But network pretty soon won't be a word.
Right. People will be like, what? What? But yes, you have, I think people would kill for that kind of stability, right, that you've had 3 times at least, right, for that. And then you still get to do the other projects on the side that you're passionate about. So, but you're not only doing that so it doesn't have to stress you out that what's happening now or next, right? It's kind of like a perfect, you've created you've controlled the perfect career for yourself.
To some extent, it's inadvertent, unintentional. But yes, I've had good fortune to play solid roles that stayed interesting to me and to audiences too, I think, over a long time. And it has been stable and regular, and I haven't been out in the cold trying to figure out an angle for auditioning like I used to have to do.
Yeah. So I'm really racking my brain, and you're kind of stumping me on why you feel like you need to have control over things and be a perfectionist. I can't figure out, based on what you're telling me about your parents and everything else, I don't know where that would have developed. And it could just be a personality trait. But usually it's in response to something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think?
It might have been because I date my sort of obsessiveness to my early years in New York when I was a magazine illustrator.
Okay.
And the kind of drawings I was doing were very particular and very detailed, and they required an absolutely clean workspace and pencils as sharp as a scalpel, and I couldn't work if there was any housework left to be done in the apartment because I was working at home.
Oh.
So it had to be tidy, dishes done and put away, laundry done. Now I can work. Now there's nothing distracting. Now I don't need to drift away and do some housework. I had to corner myself to be focused. And I think I sort of held on to that as maybe a work method.
What were the illustrations exactly? Why were they so precise?
They were little black and white drawings done with a very dark black pencil that wasn't erasable. So I had to be careful.
Okay. Did anything happen where you weren't once and something devastating happened?
Oh yeah, I had many of those kind of spill something on the finished art, or slip with the pencil and make a dark black line through a space that was supposed to be white. Just that kind of thing.
But that would have to happen. That's part of.
And I think in a way to make that workspace for me so controlled was also a way to control my anxiety about being in this huge teeming city where the likelihood of my success was very low.
Now we're on to something.
Yeah.
That could be it.
It could be New York.
Yeah. Could be New York that did it to you.
Could be.
Yeah. So why did you decide to come to New York again?
An ill-considered romantic relationship.
Oh, that's right. And then it didn't work out, and then you moved to St. Augustine?
Well, yeah. The relationship that brought me here ended, and then I moved to Brooklyn and started drawing pictures, and then I had some other relationships there, but one of them took me to Florida.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it was an ill-conceived one that brought you to New York. So it wasn't you that was coming to New York. For you, it was
not originally. I would not have been brave enough, but I followed another person.
So how long was it before the relationship ended?
We stayed together for 2 years, which is about 18 months longer than made sense.
Okay, I feel like now my analysis is going to be that it was that whole period of time of you coming to New York. 18 months out of 24 were uneasy, and that was it was time to you were probably nervous and anxious.
I was always nervous. I had barely enough money to get by, to pay rent. When that relationship actually broke up. Mm-hmm. I didn't know how I was going to make rent anywhere. I got the cheapest apartment I had ever heard of in Brooklyn, and that was my ticket out to the beginning of my life as myself.
Isn't that interesting? So you still wanted to stay?
Yeah, because some of the life here was really fun. And my various retail jobs, I made good friends. We had fun times. We would go out, go to the movies, or go have Chinese food or something that didn't cost a lot of money. So that was all good. And what had I to go back to? Not really anything in Iowa.
Right. Do you remember how much the apartment was? Do you have the number in your head still?
I do. It was $140 a month.
What? Was it your own place?
On 7th Avenue in Park Slope.
That was quite a steal.
Yeah. And like everything else in New York, there's a story, My landlady was a kind of crazy lady in the neighborhood named Mrs. Nelson, and she dressed exotically. And you'd see her on the street, and I think a lot of people thought she was maybe a crazy person or maybe had nowhere to live or something, but she was just frugal. And she looked it, and she had this building, and she rented, and some of my neighbors were really strange people, but it was a story. It was a great story.
I would imagine you can just, because there are so many characters here too. Aren't there so many characters?
Like nothing I had ever, there's nothing. I don't know 3 people in Iowa that were as strange as 10,000 people I know in New York City. They're just, everybody's sort of a regular person.
Right.
So regular. But I didn't want regular.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to be where the characters were.
Yeah. And you are where the characters are. And you're a lot of the characters yourself. You're taking from the characters that you've met and seen.
Yeah, that's right.
And created all those characters out of all of that. There are some characters in California too.
No question.
They're different characters.
Yeah, they are.
How would you describe the difference?
I respond to the characters in New York City better than the characters in LA. And I think it's because they seem like they're figures out of literature or dramas or comedies or something. I can cast them in my mind into a narrative context. It's a little harder for me to do in LA. I don't know what it is. It's just taste, partly. I'm interested in the kind of urbanness of the characters I made here, and less so into the back to the land kind of people or exotic spirituality and religions that you run into that I think of as a more West Coast thing. Of course, it's everywhere.
Yeah. No, but I do feel like that too. I used to notice that when I would go, because I record in New York, but when I would go to LA a few times a year, I'd go for like a week and I'd tape a bunch of shows, and I would notice that this like mystical thing, this topic or whatever, it was common when I would be out there. It was like a lot of my guests would bring things like that up, and then I would notice this is really California.
I was always outside of that. So I was not a natural fit for California. I love zooming around LA at night in a car and going to, you know, the restaurants and music clubs and stuff. That was all great.
Yeah. I have mixed feelings about it too. I like going out there. I love it. I do feel like when I'm back here, when I come back though, I'm like, I'm with my people again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I see what you mean. There's a lot to, it's that, I don't know. I don't want to judge the whole state of people or whatever else, but I see what you're saying where you would feel like, but there were more people like you there too, right?
Of course. Yeah.
But just not the majority, maybe.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We had lots of good friends there, and we had great, funny people to hang out with, and all of that is good. But you have to drive a lot,
right,
to mingle with your friends.
Right. I do feel like something I noticed. I was just there last week, and I did notice when I was there that it does seem like there is this community there of like the entertainment world. It does seem much more of like a network or a web or something more than it is here. I feel like, and maybe it's because I don't know, because of who I was with last week. I'm not really sure. But it does seem like here everybody's a little bit more doing their own thing while still knowing each other and having their friends. You know what I'm saying? But it's less.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I have a different angle on that. Because I have at sometimes been part of the New York live stage community.
That's the different.
Nothing's tighter than that one.
Yeah.
And you know everybody. In that world, it's small. In LA, there's no theater community. There's showbiz, but that's bigger and more spread out. And showbiz in New York is big and spread out too. But as a club, the New York theater seems to me the tightest that I've ever experienced.
And truest, probably.
Probably.
Right. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. And there are some people in New York who I have had on my show who I've talked to, and it's that same, they know each other and they're all part of that community. It's Jessica Hecht and it's Griffin Dunn and Yul Vasquez and Eric Bogosian, and am I naming some of the names?
Kate Burton. Whenever I think of who should be the Duchess of the New York Theater, I think Kate Burton is a good choice. Even though I don't think she lives here anymore. Maybe she does.
Oh, really? Well, that's...
But, talk about somebody who knew everybody.
Okay.
But if you do enough plays in this town, you pretty much do know everybody.
Right. True. And that's the nice thing about New York, too. All right. We love New York. It's been established.
Yeah.
All right. We have to close because you have to leave in a few minutes.
Oh.
So did we not get to anything that we should get to? We'll save things for next time. Well, there'll be a third show.
No, I think this is a great conversation.
Okay, good.
And a lot of surprising conversation.
I have to tell you, I was a little bit intimidated before this. You know why? Because I remembered how great our last conversation was.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, shoot, can I replicate the quality of that conversation a second time?
Yeah.
This was totally different, but I feel like we did in
totally
a different way.
But equally great. I mean, responding to those, what do you even call those quotes you read? Are they aphorisms?
I don't know. When I looked at them, I got them. I did it for Alan Cumming. I'll tell you exactly the details. Alan Cumming was coming on the show, and I felt like he'd been interviewed a million times.
Sure, he has.
And even he has a website that has like every question anybody ever asked him done. He'd written a book. I'm like, I don't want to ask him the same questions. So I got this idea to look up these sayings, and I think I remember seeing proverbs, but I felt like that's not the right word, proverbs.
Well, they are.
Do you think proverbs is right?
Yes, not in the biblical sense, but
Okay.
yes, they some of those are proverbs, as you would find in a fortune cookie. In some cases.
Yes. Okay, so what about those? You were saying I cut you off. So what about the?
I thought that's a good starter
Okay.
for someone that's opinionated like I am.
Right. Well, that's what I thought. I was like, Michael will be great at responding to these because you're gonna have interesting perspective on it because you have a very interesting perspective. So I appreciate that.
I'm going to look up that quote.
Yeah, look
from
at
the
that
French
quote.
author.
Okay.
Because I think it's meaningful. I don't keep many quotes around, but that one I keep.
A good quote is a good thing. When it really resonates, you feel it like viscerally. You're like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
You hold on to that.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll do another interesting but different conversation the third episode of Michael Emerson Comes to Really Famous to talk to Kara.
We must.
We must. Thank you for this.
Thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure.
It was fun.